For Pacifica Radio, I'm Christina Onnested. The United Nations has issued alarm over Israel's latest move to expand settlements in the occupied West Bank. It's urging Israel to stop the speed up of illegal Israeli settlements there after the government gave the finance minister, far-right leader of the religious Zionist party, Bezalel Smotrich, authority over planning in the occupied West Bank and lifted red tape on building settlements there this weekend, Sunday. The changes make it easier for Israel to expand its settlements on land the Palestinians seek as the heartland of their future state, at a time when hopes for peace are more distant than ever. Spokesperson for the United Nations said in a statement the Secretary General Antonio Guterres is alarmed by the anticipated advancement next week of over 4,000 settlement units, noting they're illegal under international law and urging Israel to stop its plan. This comes as some 5 million Palestinians have already been displaced and forced into refugee camps in the West Bank, Gaza, and neighboring countries like Jordan, Syria, and Lebanon. Today, for World Refugee Day, Pacifica's Rami Almagari files this report from one of those Palestinian refugee camps in Gaza.
The Jabalia refugee camp is home to 130,000 refugees living in 13 blocks. Local estimates suggest there are more than 150,000 jobless youth, and a majority of them are university graduates. The United Nations Relief and Works Agency for Palestine Refugees, known as UNRWA, has been providing essential services for refugees, including food, education, sanitation, and health. Refugee food rations have dropped to 30% of what they once were and are being distributed quarterly. According to the 1949 United Nations General Assembly Resolution 194, all Palestinian refugees who were displaced from more than 450 Palestinian villages and towns back in 1948 have the right to return back to those areas and get compensated for years of loss and deprivation. For Pacifica Radio, I am Rami Almagari in Jabalia refugee camp in northern Gaza Strip.
In the U.S., states celebrated the Juneteenth holiday Monday, marking the end of slavery in the country when the last known black slaves were told of their emancipation by a Union soldier, June 19, 1865. Massachusetts Democrat Representative Ayanna Pressley introduced a criminal justice reform bill, noting the disparities of people of color who are incarcerated today. Catherine Carley has more.
Representative Ayanna Pressley of Massachusetts says bold structural reform of America's legal system is long overdue.
Government has shown us time and time again that more often than not, it does not lead, it responds.
Pressley marked the Juneteenth federal holiday by reintroducing the People's Justice Guarantee, which she calls decarceration-focused legislation. The bill aims to increase restorative justice practices, prevent companies from profiting from people's detention, and invest in historically impacted communities. I'm Catherine Carley for Pacifica Network and Public News Service.
Criminal justice reform advocates also called for an end to the exception clause in the 13th Amendment, which ended slavery but allows for exceptions in cases of criminal punishment. The group End the Exception has launched a series of videos featuring the voices of formerly incarcerated people, calling for an end to the exception clause. Here's some of those voices.
I thought that slavery, that Lincoln freed the slaves, right?
I had no idea that there was an exception clause to the 13th Amendment.
Slavery never ended. It evolved, it changed.
Where else can you make somebody work for free? And if they don't work, you can lock them up, or you can even beat them up.
You have no ownership over who you are as a human being.
I felt the weight of being less than, being 3/5 of a person.
You were not allowed any days off. You were not allowed any sick time.
Organizing workers was strictly prohibited. They locked down the prisons. Nobody gets phone calls. Nobody gets showers.
I would work a day for a stamp.
I walked out of prison after 12 years with $40 in a bus ticket. That's all they gave me to try to rebuild my life.
President Joe Biden is in California, where he will hold a series of fundraisers. Monday, he arrived for the start of a 3-day trip and announced $600 million to help coastal communities fight climate change. Max Pringle reports.
The funding will be used to fight rising sea levels, storm surge, and tidal hurricanes. Biden toured the Lucy Evans Balin's Nature Interpretive Center and Preserve in Palo Alto.
These wetlands act as a critical buffer between the rising tides and the communities at risk, protecting homes, property, and infrastructure against flooding. They also absorb carbon dioxide from the air, and we're right next to Route 101, and where cars and trucks emit a lot of carbon pollution. What we're seeing here is an amazing success story.
Biden said the new climate mitigation investment will be paid for out of the multi-billion-dollar climate package Biden signed into law last year.
It starts with the most significant climate investment law ever, anywhere in the history of the world. Over billions of billions, $368 billion, 369 to be precise, in clean energy development, environmental justice, conservation, and so much more.
The new funding will also include a $67 million investment for California to modernize its electric grid to reduce the impact of extreme weather events such as wildfires. I'm Max Pringle.
I'm Christina Onnested reporting for Pacifica Radio.